Hey guys, it's Matt here from Henry Shine, just doing another, hopefully not too long video on doing a full edentulous case, finally getting around to it. So essentially within Remexis, we'll do what we did last time. So you go into your patient, choose your patient there, and then you click on 3D. Now for your fully edentulous case, you're going to have your DICOM and with the denture with radio opaque markers in the denture. So you do the DICOM, the head and the denture together, and then you do the denture separately. So once both have been done and captured, you'd obviously come into here. If you wanted to import them, you could import them down there. So we can go into our denture first. And what we want to do, because the way that the implant planning and surgical guide software works, you need the STL with the DICOM to merge together. So this particular DICOM here, now that that's there, we can go File, Export as an STL. And we're going to choose Normal, Apply Smoothing, choose your file destination where you want it to be saved to, and a name. I've already done that, so I'm going to go back into here, left click, into Volumes, and we're going to double click with the left click as well into the DICOM. So first things first, we're going to merge our DICOM with the STL. Now, my DICOM came in looking like this, but for myself, I didn't want any of the upper to be in it, so I used the rubber. If you right click and pull up or down while holding right click, you can enlarge that, and left click now, and I'm just going to delete the top of that because we don't need it. It's in the road. Now you can, now that that's done, you can see we've got all of our angles and lines here. So what happens here is our planes, you can see the blue, red, green. So that's relative to this green plane here is this blue square. Blue plane is this blue square. Red, red, and red square. So one way to make it more visual is to look at this and see if that is any more clearer for you to understand where we're at. So if you wanted to say bring this blue line down, you can come down here into the blue square and bring the blue line down. So you can see that the blue line right now is running through there and there through the nerve. Next step, these two buttons here are very handy. So you can see if both of them are unhighlighted, you can scroll through by using the mouse, the scroll of the mouse. Now each view that we're going on is going to be scrolling through different areas. So, and obviously it's all relative to here. So you can see right now, it's starting to make sense as to what planes we're on. Now, if you highlight both of these, all of a sudden we're not scrolling through when we hit scroll, we're actually zooming in and out. And likewise, you can right click, hold it down, and you can see how we're moving the DICOM around and adjusting the planes. So if we were to unselect them, we're not adjusting the DICOM, we're adjusting just the planes when we hold down right click. Likewise, if you wanted to focus on a certain point, you can go left click and just go to a certain point. So everything's starting to line up now. So after we've gotten everything into roughly the right position that we want it to, you can see here, there, blue plane, and let's just, so after that's done, we can now merge our DICOM with our STL. So we can hover up here, we can hit Fit Model, Browse, we're going to choose our denture that we've exported earlier, and there's our denture there. So after the dentures come in, I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to start to crop it. I don't want any of the top section, so I've cropped that, and we can start to use right click and start to point out these points. So I'm going to go right click there, 1, 2, and see how it says choose point 2 from the STL. So we're going to be always choosing the STL first and then clicking on our DICOM. So right click and lucky last. Right click. After 3 it's going to try and merge itself. Now that looks pretty close and we can go done. Now it's going to try and refine and basically get itself in the closest position. Once it's merged, now we can come in here and we can just check to see if we're happy with the alignment. So you can see it's potentially a little bit out, so you can see where our markers are. Some are pretty close, some aren't. So what you can do after that, we now have the option to, let's just turn that off so it's a little bit clearer. We now have the option and the ability to start playing around and adjusting all of our slices. If we bring in these slices again, you can see where all of our planes are. So let's bring that plane there. We can adjust that plane like so. So our blue plane now is getting pretty close to where we want it to be. Let's say that. Now we're going to start to scroll the blue plane up. So blue plane's up. Now we can start to adjust these red and the blue planes. So you can, as I mentioned, rotate it around. So each view, if we were to bring this blue plane back up again, you can see now we're starting to slice through the denture there. That's through the nerves. This green plane is this one here, and then our red plane is here. So if we zoom this back, we can have a quick look through our denture and see if we're happy with where everything is. So you can see the marker is here, where it is on the denture is just there. So let's just zoom in. So you can see that's out. So if ever this does happen and it gives you I guess, something not close enough to what your liking is, you can highlight here, lock, choose the denture, and can you see right now how this has started to highlight in this white rather than just a straight purple light here. So if you right click and hold it down, we can start to adjust our angles. Can you see how it started to move there? And then if we go left click, we can start to move this. So you can see right now, this marker here and this marker here are now pretty much all bang on of where we want them, right? Now we just need to pull down the front to make sure we're happy with the front. So we're going to, what I want to try and do is we're going to bring this red, this one here, down to the front. No, we'll go a little bit further. About there. So, and then what we can do, this green, we're going to rotate the green around and up. And what we want to try and do is, let's just bring the green that way. So now within here, you can see we can now highlight and we can, oh, so after you're happy with the adjusting, we're going to go on to the next step, which is drawing a panoramic curve. So we're going to come into here and choose panoramic. And again. Now it's going to give us an automatic panoramic curve. I want to draw my own. I always prefer to draw my own. Now we're going to adjust this to the point where we can see the nerve openings and start to see a fair bit of the nerve canal. So just right there. Now what we're going to do is by left clicking, we're going to start to follow that nerve down. So that's that all drawn out now. If you wanted to edit any points, you can by adjusting it there. So after that's all drawn out, we can now start to go into the next step, which is plotting out the nerves. So to do that, we go into the implant side. And we're going to start to pick and choose our implants. So the first ones we're going to choose are going to be the fixation pins. So we're going to go into the library, I'm going to go to fixation pin library just here, choose Straumann, and choose our fixation pin, add plan. Now I'm going to add both of these to central positions, so I'm going to go copy, pin them right next to one another. Now you can see obviously it's placing them in that position down there initially, but what I want to do is I want to change it to a central view. So if we scroll all the way up to around about where we want the implant to be sitting through this blue section, you can now start to rotate this around. Most probably about as close as I'm going to get it. So from here, what we're going to do is start to place our implant. Now you can, let's say if this was in the wrong way, you can flip it by clicking flip, or you can flip it again. So you can see right now, that's our fixation pin. So is that getting pretty close to where we'd want it? Potentially. As I mentioned also, if we were to scroll down, you can see the red plane. So this plane here. So if you wanted to adjust that, you can quite easily come, and if we want to make it flat to the denture, that's flat now. So now it makes it a little bit easier that if you did want to adjust the position of it, you can. Now the next one, our good friend over here, we're going to do the same to him. So we're going to bring our blue plane up. So we're going to go to our blue plane here. We're going to bring it up to roughly where we want it. So we'll just go here. So you can see right now where that is. We're also wanting to get the red and the blue correct, so I want to have this pretty much all coming straight forward. So let's adjust our planes so to be something like that. And now what we get to do is we get to adjust on all those planes there. Now that's obviously getting a bit too close, but we'll just adjust these planes again to get them where we want them to be. And now you can see we just need to pull this apart just a little bit, and there we go. So our two fixation pins now are pretty close to where we want them. if you wanted to adjust them at all, you can. You're more than welcome to. And let's just bring that plane. So once you've got that plane right again, you know, we can go to this blue view here and we can see that we can pull that up. And what I'm also going to do is I want to try and get both of these on the same plane. Together. Let's just bring them a little bit closer together. So that's going to give us a little bit more room later on for placing our other implants. So once the 2 fixation pins are done, we'll take it off that, and then we're going to start choosing our other implants. We'll bring this down. Now, the 2 fixation pins are obviously one thing, but when we're placing these other implants, we're going to want our nerves also marked out. So to draw our nerve, we're going to click over here, draw our nerve, and we're going to come over here and we're going to, these red slices here are these red, I guess, what do you call them, slices, screenshots. So you can change how close you want them together. You can see that they just bunched up, and you can also choose how many slides that you want in each one. So the idea here is we want to try and adjust this blue one down so we can see our nerve opening, and you can see that nerve opening right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this down, and you can see now we can start to mark out our nerve. So by doing this, I'm going to mark one here. I'm going to go forward to this one. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to start to go back. Now, if for any reason you struggled to determine where the nerve is, so as I scroll this further back to pick up the last little parts of our the nerve, so let's say as we're struggling to see here, then this one up here is for the settings for our DICOM. So you can see by moving this around, you might be able to make out the nerve a little bit more clearer. So once that's all plotted out, I'm going to click over here on the nerve to say that I'm finished. Now you can see that the nerve's sitting inside of the actual cavity, so we're going to hit settings, and we're going to adjust this diameter up to be able to fill up the void of that nerve, so we know we're not going to go near it when we place our implant. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring our slides all the way over to here once again until roughly where we get the nerve opening. Nope, not quite there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll this down. So nerve openings there. So here it is. So what I'm going to do once again, going to click on the nerve, start to plot it out, go one forward, and then going to start to go back. Now you don't have to click on every single one. And we'll just move this further back. So now that that's all plotted out, now once again we can go to our nerve and we can enlarge it so that it fills in the void. So we know that we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot. Now you can make that smaller or larger, this is just me choosing what I am. Now that our fixation pins are done, you can see that they're done. We've plotted out the nerve. Now we can start placing our implants towards the back. So we're going to choose Strymon once again, and I believe you guys use the Roxaloid SLA Active. We're going to choose 4.1 and 8, fully guided today. Add to plan, so we can place, let's just quickly place one there. And if we wanted to copy it, we can go right click, we can place one here. Now clearly that's sitting on the nerves. You can, if you wanted to, start to move them around. Now each implant, you can see just a rough guide of where it's coming through here. You can also start to adjust the sleeves up higher too. So if you felt like the sleeves were giving you issues, or they were not going to be, they were sitting below the tissue level, obviously that's going to give you issues. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to move these sliders closer together, or you can even go to a centric view. So from the centric view, once again, you can see all of our planes here. So I'm going to highlight this crown, this implant over here, and our centric views are, you can see just where it's going to be getting close to the nerve. And if we click on here, we can zoom out. So once we've placed our implant and we're happy with the position, we can now, and you can see that the sleeves may be sitting a little bit below tissue level, so let's just go up one. Sorry, wrong sleeve, this one. There we go. So that's now the sleeve is all good to go. So that's that one highlighted. So if we choose this implant over here, we can go through the same. Now, once again, if you want to take that higher, we can take that one higher, and we can start to place the implant where we like. So now both of our implants there are placed. Now, as we rotate around, it's going to give you a good idea of how it's sitting on those planes. So you can see blue plane here. So that's this blue plane, and then the red plane. So if you did want it, move it. You can quite easily. Cool. So both of those implants, you know what, I'm not going to fuss over it. I'm just going to leave it there. And now what we're going to do is place it two on the front. So I'm going to right click, left click, sorry, so that it's highlighted. Just going to go copy. I'm going to place this implant here. I'm going to go copy, and we're going to place this implant here. Now that's clearly too close, we can move it. Okay, great. Now the implants on the front, let's say we wanted to make them a little bit longer. We can go right click, properties, go into our libraries again, and let's make it a longer one. And you can just hit replace. So now we've got a longer implant in, and likewise if we wanted to take that sleeve up higher, we can. So you can see where the sleeve's coming out in relation to the denture. And likewise, once again, we can play around with where our views are. So you can actually put it where you like and get it pretty accurate to, you know, your exact position. So that's that implant done. So let's say this one over here. Once again, we can go properties. Let's make this one a longer one as well, fully guided, and replace. So now that implant now has been put into position, and you can once again move the sleeve higher if we wanted to as well. So depending on your, once again, the angles of your slice view here, it's going to be relative to where you're placing your implant and position. So you can see all of our implants now are placed. Whether or not you like them is another thing, but hey, I'm showing you how to do it. So that now is all placed in a position. We've got our two fixation pins in a position, and now we can start to do our surgical guide. So to do our surgical guide, we can come over here, click on the guide, and I'm just going to bring this slice down, and here we go. So now we're in our guide section. So you want to eliminate your planes at this point. We're going to look straight down. We're going to set manually, so that's our path of insertion. After the path of insertion is done, you can use denture mode. And you can see it's deleted anything on there that we don't need, or which it thinks is going to be an undercut. So that's going to be fine for us. We can deal with this. And for us now, we can now start to draw guide area. So to draw the guide area, we're just going to literally just draw around the guide just like that. And for us, we're going to go remove sharp and thin edges and preview guide. Okay, once our guide's been produced, you can see it's pretty much all done there. We can start to do a bit of a trim. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around the outside. So I'm going to go to remove material. With this tool here, I'm just going to trim up around the edges because we don't need any of that material around there. It's going to give you some issues with seating, and likewise, I don't need any of this material up around here, and we'll eliminate it from there. So that's that. I'll just smooth that part out. So the guide is pretty much all done now just by removing that material. So if we wanted to do anything at this point in time, we could add a little bit of support on to certain parts of this guide. So to add that, we're going to hit add bar. And if you wanted to reduce the size of this bar, that's pretty bulky. To 2.6, so let's just add this to there. We'll add another one, support bar from there to there, support bar from there to there. So that's all done now. If you wanted to add anything else, you can. You can, you know, remove more material if you wanted to. You can add text. And we can call the text test. Literally, by zooming this into a certain area, it's going to put the writing onto the actual surgical guide. So let's just do it there. Create. So there we go. So it's now just put the writing on our surgical guide, so that can print out. No dramas. Okay. From there we can go create guide. I've agree with the above. Once that surgical guide prints out, literally it's just a case of giving it breaking all the support structures off that happens when you're 3D printing, and then you're good to go. Now, if you wanted to view the PDF after this has been generated, it's going to pop up after we've finished creating this surgical guide. You can also click over here on the PDF to have a look at it as well. You can, if you wanted to, you can export volume. Once again, once this is finished doing that, you can go up there and export volume, and you can choose bits and pieces of what you wanted to export as well. And then it would save it to a file, and then you can export it to whoever you liked. So there we go, there's our surgical guide saved. Let's just go save.